Hello and welcome to Mo Car Problem. I'm your host Moses. Today we're going to talk about repair shops. So this is a topic where whether you have a warranty or not, if you don't fix your own car, you got to take it to a repair shop. So there's things you should know about repair shops. If there's any fees, if they actually know what they're doing when it comes to working on your car or not. If it's safe to go to a dealership or a small repair shop to have your car fixed. There's different things you might not know about it. And I worked at a repair shop when I was at Ford, at CarMax. I was also manager of a transmission shop for a short period of time. Worked at an inspection company, so I pretty have a good gist of how repair shops work. Even as a technician, I've seen other technicians, some that may be trustworthy and some that are not. If they upsell or they don't upsell, and how they decide to upsell or not. So those are things I'm going to talk about. Just want you to be aware of what they do at a repair shop, what they charge, and if you feel like it's trustworthy or not to go to certain shops. So this is going to be probably more than one video. I want you to determine based off of this, your own opinion, if you think you should go to a dealer or not, how to look into certain shops or not, and to give you a gist of how it works. So I like to start from the very beginning. Definition of a repair shop, right? Where they fix your vehicle. It could be at a dealership, maybe a small local mom and pop shop, it could be a main brand chain shop, like a tire shop. Maybe they do repairs, maybe. They could even be at a gas station. Some gas stations have repair shops too. And there's even mobile mechanics that can come to your house and fix your vehicle. So there's all the different types of ways they can fix your car, and depending where you can go, right? Now, when it comes to fixing your vehicle, most shops are supposed to give you a repair warranty. So what is that? So let's say you get your car fixed at a local repair shop. They replace your alternator. You go 10 miles down the road, that alternator dies. And you're like, I just had this done. I shouldn't have to pay for it again, right? So shops are supposed to have a repair guarantee. So they may say, let's say 12,000 miles or a year. They'll warranty the repair they just did. So if that alternator breaks again within 12,000 miles or a year, they will replace it for free. That's their repair guarantee. They'll guarantee the labor and the part. Every shop can be different. I've seen some that are only 6 months, 6,000 miles, may even be 90 days or 30 days. Some may be 2 or 3 years. Depending where you go, depends on your repair warranty. All right. Also, how it works is that when you go to a shop, they tell you, hey, we diagnosed your vehicle, may charge us, say, $150 an hour. Okay, we found out what the problem is. This is what you need. Do you want us to go forward with the work? And if you're not there in person, let's say you drop off the car, and you give them a verbal yes, go ahead, that counts. It's almost like a contract, if you will. You can't say go ahead and repair it and then come back and say, oh, you know what, I can't afford to do it now. You already agreed to it, verbally or written. If you're there in person, they might have you sign something saying you agreed to it. So a repair shop is supposed to get your permission before doing any repairs. So you bring it into the shop. They say, okay, we charge $150 per hour to find out what's wrong with your car. Sign here. You just give them permission to diagnose it. Once they diagnose it, they need to call you again and say, hey, this is what we found. This is how much it'll cost. Do you want us to do the work? And either verbal or written permission to go ahead and move forward again. Then, of course, after they do the work, you pay them for the repairs, then they give you your keys and you're on your way. So they usually pay for the part, and then you're technically like reimbursing them, if you will. So you need an alternator? Okay, you said go ahead and do it. They'll use their own money to buy that alternator, put it in, and then you're paying them for the work, the cost for the alternator, the labor, and so on. So let's start with something that you may not know. Recommendations. So if you go to a tire shop versus a dealer, a tire shop may not know exactly what mileage your car needs maintenance due. So, for example, if you really want to know when your oil should be changed, always go by your owner's manual. They're the people that built your car. Go by that. I don't care what the dealer says or these small shops say. It's written in your owner's manual. That is what you go by, no matter what. So some of these tire shops, do you really think they have all the recommendations for every make and model? They know when a Hyundai's oil change should be done, or on a Mercedes, or an Audi, or a Toyota. They don't keep track of every single year, make, and model. No, it's extremely hard to believe that they would do that. They will usually have a generic way of saying when your oil is to be changed. So they'll put that little sticker up in the top left-hand windshield of your vehicle, right? And it tells you when you should have your car's oil changed again. And usually, I've seen it, usually around 3,000 miles, they'll say change your oil. That's like the safe zone. Maybe cars back in the day, you change around 3,000 miles. The cars now are more efficient. The oil is better quality and different chemicals in it as well. So it's better long lasting. So you don't change your oil every 3,000 miles anymore. A lot of these newer cars, you may change it every 7,500 miles. Some of these cars say 10,000 miles. I think that might be a little too long, but you go by your manual. So if your car says change your oil every 10,000 miles, and then the tire shop or oil change shop you go to says change it every 3,000 miles, they could charge you 3 times in a row. 3,000 miles, charge you again. Another 3,000 miles, charge you again. So now you've gone 9,000 miles and had your oil changed 3 times. But your owner's manual say change it once at 10,000 miles. So this got you 3 times in a row when you technically didn't need it that soon. They may go off of the generic estimate of when your car needs the recommendations. They may not have the exact, okay, Honda needs to have the oil change at this. Chevy needs to have the oil change on at this. No, there's no way these small shops are going to have track of every year, make, and model and when the oil needs to be changed. They'll have one set generic when, and that's when. Hey, in general, you change the oil around this time. That's it. So the recommendations could be based off of that. For engine oil, coolant, transmission service, oh, your transmission fluid needs to be flushed out. Every, let's say, 60,000 miles or 70,000 miles. Maybe that could be true on a Nissan, but it's not going to be true on a Toyota. A Toyota may say 100,000 miles, change your transmission fluid. A Nissan with a CVT may say 50,000 miles. So see how car manufacturers are different? You go by whatever the shop says. I mean, they can get you multiple times to have the same service done, right? If they say every 50,000 miles and your owner's manual says every 100,000 miles, they've got you twice before you hit 100,000 miles, right? They charge you twice. They make money off of you. So don't go by what they say. Always go by your owner's manual. Now, if they're saying that the fluid is dirty or the air filter looks dirty, ask them for it. Don't just say, okay, sure, show me. Show me my air filter's dirty. That's one way you can try to protect yourself. Unfortunately, I've seen it in the shop where a technician will take the air filter out and put it on the ground and get it dirty, and then try to upsell it and say, hey, you need an air filter. And I've seen that backfire where the customer said, no, I changed it recently. It shouldn't be dirty. Now the tech's caught, right? How's it dirty when I just changed it? And now I saw the technician come back and kind of pat it off quickly, get all the dirt off the air filter and put it back in the car. That's what happens when you're dishonest. That's why you got to ask, hey, you say my air filter is dirty? Show me. You say my transmission fluid is dirty? Show me. Ask them for proof. Granted, they could always have a spare air filter in the back that's dirty, or fluid sample might be dirty. They might have something laying around, but a lot of times they don't. Ask. Some shops will give you safety glasses and let you go into the shop. And then you can go up to your vehicle and say, okay, this is my car. Show me the air filter is dirty. If it's not even taken apart, then you know they're trying to upsell you. They didn't even look. Now, I don't think it's right, of course, to upsell someone something they don't need. I've seen it happen at Ford. They recommend stuff you don't need because they want to make money off of you. Because how mechanics in general get paid is something called flat rate. So think of how waiters get paid, right? They usually get paid like $2 an hour plus tips. So if there's no customers, they only get paid $2 an hour. Doesn't seem worth it, right? You have to rely on customers to get paid anything decent. So if there's no customers, no, like you get $2 an hour. Flat rate is similar to that, except in my opinion, I think it's worse because usually they don't tip mechanics, for one, and two, you only get paid for every hour you make. So for example, it may take me 3 oil changes to equal 1 hour's worth of work. Granted, if there's a long line at the parts department for me to get the parts for your car, the oil, the filter, I have to wait for the service writer to call the customer and say, hey, a mechanic says you need an air filter. I have to wait for them to do that. I have to wait for the oil because sometimes we have to share the oil at the dealership at Ford. So if one mechanic's using the oil pump, I had to wait for him, and then I could use it and get the oil to put in your car after doing an oil change. So they may take longer than usual. So make it an oil change done, let's say every 15, 20 minutes. It may take 30 minutes or longer per oil change to get done, depending on those circumstances. So if it takes you an hour to do 2 oil changes, but yet it takes 3 oil changes to equal 1 hour's worth of work. So you lost money. So to do 3 oil changes, let's say it takes you an hour and 20 minutes to do 3 oil changes. The inspection, the paperwork, get everything done, bring the car back up to the front for the customer. Let's say an hour and 20 minutes to do 3 oil changes. It takes 3 oil changes to get paid 1 hour. And it took you an hour and 20 minutes, you just lost 20 minutes. You don't get paid that. If a job takes longer than usual, oh well. If replacing the brakes on this car takes an hour, it pays an hour, but it's rusted and it takes you 2 hours, oh well, you get paid 1 hour. You just lost an hour. And if there's no customers coming in the shop, oh well, you get paid nothing. Zero. There is no safety net. Not even the waiters would get $2 an hour plus tips. No, you don't get tips as a mechanic, and there is no safety net. There's not even $2 an hour. You may make $12 per hour you make, but you may have to do 3 oil changes to equal a single hour. If only 2 oil changes come in the whole day and that's it, then that's all you get. You can be there for 8 hours and barely make an hour's worth of work. You get paid an hour, even though you're there for 8. I remember when I worked at Ford, and I would say maybe 3 months out of the year, we were actually like busy for a whole shift, start to finish. And the highest paycheck I remember getting, I believe, was either $220 or $260. That was the highest I've ever gotten that I could think of at Ford. And that is me working 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 60 hours a week. I got paid maybe $210, or excuse me, $220 to $260. $260 on the high end a week after working 60 hours. And it was $12 per hour I earned. So an oil change may be 0.3, and 1.0 is an hour. Touching a tire may be 0.3 or 0.2, and it has to add up to an hour. So that means you have to do multiple ones in a row to even equal a single hour. That's flat rate. Some shops, it may be worth it. Some shops pay flat rate higher than others. So that was a quick loop tech at Ford. It was $12 an hour. CarMax, I was a flat rate making 16. But you may go to somewhere else, let's say Mercedes. They may pay you, let's say $25 for every hour you earn. But at the end of the day, you need work. So if you find a shop that pays you a lot of money for every hour you earn, but there's tons of work coming in, that may be worth it to you. But if there's no work, it doesn't matter if they pay you $100 an hour. If no customers come in, you get paid nothing. Because, hey, if the dealer's not making money, why should you? That's how they look at it. And warranty work is worse. like manufacturer's warranty. So if you bought a brand new Ford and you have problems with it, then Ford has to warranty it, the repairs. And since you work for Ford, they figure I should get a discount because you work for me. So they'll cut the labor in half. This job normally pays an hour to do. Well, this is under warranty. I'm paying you a half hour, even though it takes an hour to do it. A 10-hour engine job under Ford's warranty, I'm paying you 5 hours. Even though you're going to spend 10 hours doing it, I'm only going to pay you 5 because I deserve a discount. You work for me. That's why mechanics hate warranty work at Ford. Hate it. They will refuse sometimes to want to do it. But at the same time, if there's no work coming in the door, it's that or nothing. What are you going to do? I get paid half or get paid nothing. So it could be kind of cutthroat working as a mechanic. And I see mechanics fight each other over jobs. I've seen some high jobs. If we start to get busy sometimes, I've seen a mechanic take 2 jobs instead of it going, you get 1 job, you get 1 job, you get 1 job, and they rotate. I've seen it where a mechanic took 2 jobs and hid one underneath the other to make it look like he took 1, and then put that second one in his toolbox and went to get the car. And I've seen some mechanics fight, like almost to the point of fist fighting, almost screaming and yelling because they're fighting over work. And some of them will be nitpicky. This car that came in for an oil change, that pays 0.3. That's barely 20 minutes, less than that. I get another car that comes in for an alignment that pays an hour and 20. So even though that oil change was first, and they've been waiting for a half hour, that guy that just came in and waited 5 minutes has an alignment. I've seen some mechanics take the alignment job instead and leave that oil change one sitting there. So the customer is sitting in the lounge for over an hour for an oil change and no one touched it. Because they're taking that alignment job, it pays more. They don't want that. Or doing a tire patch on an RV and to use a heavy duty alignment rack. And that barely pays 0.6, which is just slightly over half hour. You know it's going to take you longer than that. By the time you get this thing on this rack, lift it up, take off the dually wheels, the tire machine is maxed out trying to fit this RV wheel, so you're fighting this thing. It's going to take you way over a half hour. Minimum an hour to patch this tire on this RV, a minimum of an hour. And it pays barely a half hour, like 35 minutes. No one's going to want that. I've seen mechanics refuse to do certain jobs because they pay so little. To the point where my manager came in when we're in the break lounge and literally yelled at us saying, I will fire you all if you don't do these repairs. I've done it before. Why do you think I hired you guys all similar time? So I fired the entire Quick Lube techs, all of them at once. You don't want to do work, I will fire you all. This is your first and last warning. And to save face, I did those jobs. The jobs that nobody wanted, the pain in the butt oil changes on the tow trucks that are too big to fit in the shop, the RVs that are a nightmare to pull into the shop. And I got crappy paychecks. The only way it even got close to $100 an hour, or $100 a week, was because I did multiple crappy jobs in a row, back to back to back to back, and they added up to that amount, which is sad. Because I worked at TJ Maxx as my first job for 4 years. And 4 years worth of raises, I got paid $8.66. And I technically made about $25 more in my paycheck. Working at Ford, $12 per hour, flat rate. Ford certified, so I have 11 Ford certifications, because I went to the college for it. Ford certified, Quick Lube also mechanic, so I did warranty work too, so I'm certified. $12 flat rate. I made maybe $25 more a paycheck. than what I made at TJ Maxx at $8.66. I didn't make anywhere close to the hours I came into the shop. I worked around 40, 50 hours a week, and I got paid clearly not even half that. So that's the thing. When it comes to jobs like this, I want you to have the mindset of why some mechanics may rip you off. If they have no work coming in, you come in the door, your car needs brakes, it needs tires, they got the dollar signs in their eyes. You came in for an oil change? Oh, no, 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 no. You need an air filter, you need tires, you need the upsell. They want to make money off of you. They might be starving for work, starving for money, starving for a paycheck. But I think it's right that they're doing that? No. Only recommend stuff if you truly need it. Something that I think is okay that you can do is, even if you don't need it, you can recommend it by mileage if your manual says that. If I worked at Ford, then yeah, I can know, okay, this car needs this by this mileage. And Ford is supposed to do that, recommend stuff based off the mileage of the vehicle in the owner's manual. They're supposed to have track of that because you're at Ford and you brought in a Ford vehicle, then they should know. I've seen some dealerships that don't do that. They go off their own recommendations. They shouldn't do that. Their information should say, based off of your owner's manual, like, hey, you need to have your coolant changed at 60,000 miles. Or, we noticed your air filter is dirty, which is a little bit earlier than the owner's manual says, and they should bring out the air filter and prove it. So I think recommendations based off mileage is okay, but don't recommend stuff just because. So if you're a tire shop, I find it hard to believe you know exactly when my coolant needs to be changed. And my Ford and in a Volkswagen and a Chevy, I feel like you're using a generic when they should be changed, a generic set point for all the vehicles. So if you're not sure when things should be changed, look in your owner's manual. It will say at this mileage change this mileage change this. That is 100% way to know when your fluids should be changed. Air filters and cabin filters are usually based off of how it looks, but even some of those do have mileage recommendations in the manual. Some do not. That's more of a wear and tear based off usage. So ask to see it. Can I see what my filter looks like, my air filter? Show me that it's dirty. Because some mechanics may upsell you, say you need stuff when you don't. So when you say, how can I know if I really need it or not? Look at your owner's manual. Go by that more than anything. And if it's something that's not in the manual, if it doesn't say air filters, but they're recommending one, ask them to show you. Show me the air filter's dirty. It's better than just assuming what they're saying is correct and just paying for it over and over again. When I do warranty work and I have to look at maintenance records from customers, I've seen it before where a shop recommended something to them, and then they came back for an oil change later. They recommended that service again and literally paid for it again. And I'm just thinking, like, you just paid for this service. You should be good for another, let's say, 40,000 miles. You did it again in like 8,000 miles? Did they not look at your last service record and see that you already did this? They just charged you again. You just did it recently. So a lot of these people do upsell because they're starving for work. Flat rate. Most shops pay flat rate. Most. Sort of like a salesman with commission, where they have to sell a car to make money. And some do not have any safety nets. So if you don't sell a car, you make nothing. And some do have a safety net. You don't sell a car, well, okay, you'll still get paid something. Most mechanic shops are flat rate. You get paid per job. And they decide how much per job you get paid. Or at CarMax, it paid less to do 4 tires than it did at Ford. So even though I got more work working at CarMax than I did at Ford, Ford technically paid more to do 4 tires than CarMax did. So when you're starving for work, these mechanics may do that. They may upsell you. They may sell you something based off of an average recommendation, uh, based off of mileage. They may not even do that. They may just upsell you, period, to make something off of you. So that's the only way you can know if you really need it or not. Look, ask to see what it looks like, and go buy an owner's manual. Always go by that. All right. Also, there are bad technicians out there. Ones that know how to diagnose your car, and some that do not. Lately, I've seen a lot of mechanics that do not. Doesn't matter if it's the dealership, if it's a small local shop, it doesn't matter anymore. I've seen it all over. I've seen some small local shops that knew what they're talking about very, very well. And I was impressed. Their diagnosis was really, really detailed. I've seen some that do not, and they are clearly guessing. Same with dealerships. You'd think a dealership, oh, they should specialize in this. They're trained in it, right? No. A lot of dealers do not send out mechanics for training. I'm sure if you've looked at jobs, you'll notice that a lot of jobs would be like, you need, a college degree and 5-year experience. And you're like, how am I supposed to get that experience if no one willing to hire me in the first place? If everybody expects me just to show up with experience, right? It's very similar to being a mechanic. Unless you find that tire shop, a quick lube shop to get your foot in the door, if you don't find that, then these shops usually will not hire you without experience being a mechanic. So that's the thing. When you want to be a mechanic, you need to have experience, or ASCs, which are automotive certifications, and you have to have your own tools. So maybe if you're a quick lube tech, just changing oil at these local small lube shops that are around the corner or in a plaza, you could probably get away with just a high school diploma. Maybe. But a dealership or like a full-on repair shop, no, you need to have experience or you need to have ASCs. And the thing is, to even get the ASCs, you need at least 2 years experience working in a shop. Or 1 year experience for college, automotive in college, or an elective in high school, automotive. They'll count that as 1 year, and then you still need 1 more year working in a shop. So I couldn't get my ASCs working at Ford, but once I worked at CarMax, okay, I worked at Ford for a year, I went to college for a year. Now I can take my ASCs. I took 2 of them. I have steering suspension and electrical ASC certifications. You need experience. So I feel like either these technicians are just going to college and then just jumping in and they're able to get their foot in the door, and some of them do not know how to diagnose cars, or they lie in their resume. Even when I worked, not even worked, when I went to college for automotive, I was looking for other jobs because TJ Maxx paid very little, and I was struggling. I was below paycheck to paycheck. My parents had to help me get through college, and I hated it because it's their money. I don't want them to have to pay for me to get through college. It's not fair to them. My parents had to work 2 jobs to help me out, and I felt awful. I was working on people's cars on the side after work. I was using all my anything I had to try to not ask my parents for money. I refused to. They had to insist to help me, and I'm very blessed that they did, because I don't want to take money from them. They work hard for the money. So I looked for jobs around the area. So I had to compete with, of course, all the students from my school, plus all the students from all the other colleges in that area, and of course, other people that live there too. So when I applied around, I couldn't find much, right? I went to go apply for, I think, Firestone, and the guy came out with a stack of papers, and was like, this is what I got just from this week from people applying. You really think you have a chance? You can, but I'm only hiring like 1 tech, and look at this stack. And by the way, I don't know if I'm a fan of hiring people from your college, because some people from my college clearly didn't know what they're doing. They may have the schooling, maybe they cheat to get by, who knows? And then they go into the real world and they don't know what they're doing. You need both book smarts and actual physical to figure it out. I learned a lot more figuring things out when I worked at CarMax. I had the knowledge in college, but to apply it, I learned that mostly through CarMax, figuring things out on my own, figuring out how cars work, and fixing it. Plus, my automotive I took in high school for 4 years helped out a bit too. I had that experience. So I even tried to apply at a quick lube shop in college area, and a lady really wanted me. She was like, "Oh, you go to automotive college? You took it in high school? Oh wow, you're perfect for this job. You're perfect." She went to get the manager. The manager was like, "Oh really? This guy's per." He saw me in my uniform for the college I went to. "We're not hiring." And she looked at him like, "But we are. What do you mean?" "No, we're not. We're not hiring." I was kind of upset, and I was like, "There's a banner across the garage that says we're hiring right now." I meant to take that down. I meant to take it down. We're not hiring. When I graduated about a year later, that banner never came down. It's because he saw my uniform. Because some of the people that went to the college I went to probably messed up the vehicles. That's what I can assume. I applied at a Pep Boys locally. He saw my uniform. Guess what? "Oh, you're going to leave after a year you graduate, aren't you?" I'm like, "Probably. I live in West Palm. I don't live in this area." "No, no, no. I want someone who's going to be here a lot longer than a year." So because I was from this automotive school, I guess students from the school gave kind of a bad reputation, right? And some of them didn't know how to fix cars or causing problems, even with the knowledge, or maybe they didn't pay attention in school. In high school and automotive, I would say majority of the students I was with in automotive didn't pay attention or tried cheating off other people to get by. And then here I am, they're asking me to help them align their car. We're in the same class. You don't know how to do alignments? I just show them how to adjust toe and everything on their cars. They didn't know. So apply that to mechanics now, repair shops. Some of these people do not know how to diagnose cars. And I've seen it gotten worse and worse and worse. I would say about 8 out of 10 repair shops I do claims with, just pick out a random out of a bucket. Dealerships, small repair shops, put them all together in a bucket. 8 out of 10 do not know how to diagnose cars. It's that high now. They guess. Is that high? Maybe 3, 4 times a week, I'll have people call, tell me their diagnosis and what they tested on the car. I'm like, "This sounds legit. You did a good job diagnosing the car." And multiple times I will see they don't know what they're doing. I got a code, throw a part at it. That's it. That's it. They don't test nothing. And I know my job as a warranty department, I can't technically try to tell them you don't know what you're doing, but I'm supposed to say we'll cover the repair if the warranty covers it if we find a failure. So sometimes I have to be a little bit more specific and be like, this code doesn't prove it failed. It's extremely rare you go by a code and throw a part at it. I know Nissan with the CVT transmissions, there was a time where those had such a huge failure. If you had a code specifically in that CVT transmission, Nissan would say to replace the transmission. So essentially, you got to go through a part in it. That's extremely rare. You do not do that. A code gives you an idea of where the problem may exist on the car. And they were just, "Nope, this is the most common problem with this code. I'm throwing a part at it." And sometimes I would stick for a while. There's times where they wouldn't. And they'd call in again, saying, "Okay, it needs this too." Call in again. "Oh, it also needs this too." That means you didn't diagnose it right the first time. You're throwing parts at it. I've seen that so many times now. I'm tired of it. It feels like it's ruining my reputation as a mechanic, seeing other quote unquote mechanics, and that's how they test the cars. There's a Mercedes dealer that put in stuff that the car didn't even need. Is putting in a evac and recharge the AC system. I'm like, the reason this car is in here is, I think it's for like an oil leak or something. I'm like, it had nothing to do with the AC. And I even asked the service writer, why are you charging an extra almost $200 to put new AC Freon in it? They're not complaining about that. The Freon's fine. Oh, well, we just do it. It's our recommendations. It's standard procedure. A standard procedure to charge every customer to recharge their AC system? Over $200? You do this for every customer? So what, they come in with a flat tire? You're going to charge them for an AC system too? Recommendation? But they didn't need it. What do you mean standard procedure? When you look at stuff that they may charge, it can be ludicrous. I'll talk about that later, probably in another video. So I want this video to be too much longer. I'm definitely going to make a part 2 to talk more about techs, because it gets more in depth about this, how bad some of these technicians get, and how a lot of them don't know what they're doing. And you don't know that. You bring your car in, you assume they're experts, right? Experts. But like I said, a lot of these shops expect you to show up with experience. Don't think because you're going to BMW, they were trained by BMW. Maybe one dealer might be, or maybe they sent their techs out to be trained for a school. Maybe. Most likely, no. The Ford dealer I worked at, I was the only one there who had Ford certifications. Nobody else there had any. Not the mechanics, not the quick lube techs, nobody. I was the only one there who had Ford certifications. And the manager even said, technically, you need Ford certifications to do warranty work with Ford. But since nobody here has it, we have no choice but to let them do the work anyway. So we'll count ASC's certifications. They're not through Ford, but there's something. But then when I showed up, they wanted me to do warranty work because I was technically certified. So I got those certifications through the college I went through on my own. Ford didn't pay me for that. They didn't reimburse me for that. So don't assume that because they're BMW or Mercedes or any dealership that they're certified and trained to work on this car. Maybe some are, but a lot of them aren't. If they're desperate for mechanics, you got an ASC certification, which is like a general automotive certification. Good enough. We need you. You got the experience. You got your own tools. Get in here. And that's it. And the service writers will defend them. Like, this is a Toyota certified mechanic. He knows what he's talking about. They're questioning his diagnosis. And I'm going to be like, yeah, this doesn't sound right. I can't flat out say that. But I'll have to say it in a more, let's say, polite way of saying it. Like, I need more for failure. This code doesn't present a failure. Along those lines. And sometimes these service writers will fight tooth and nail for these mechanics. He said it failed because there's a code. I don't see the problem. I can't flat out say your mechanic is guessing because he got a code. He's throwing a part at it based off a code. He didn't test nothing. I can't say that. So it can be frustrating when I'm trying to have to almost beat around the bush and tell your mechanic to test this car correctly. So I know what the failure is. So I don't want you calling back an hour later going, that didn't fix it. Now it needs this part. And then calling back again, that didn't fix it. Now we're not doing that. We're not playing that game. And this is warranty. Imagine you as a customer. You bring your car into the shop. You assume they figured out what's wrong with their car. And needs this part. You figure, that's kind of expensive, but I got to do it. I got to get to work. And then they call you an hour later and say, oh, it also needs this. Either A, it's possible they found something else wrong while they're in there, or B, they guessed and it didn't fix it, and now they're trying to fix it and they're throwing whatever parts they can that are even related to that failure. And you are costing money. It's costing you money They can pay them over and over and over again. They place this part, or will they place this part? Maybe you seem to fix it, you leave, and it lasts a week, and it's doing it again. You're gonna bring it back. That's what part guessing does. We don't test things. This is what happens. So I'm gonna have to end it here. I'll talk about it more again about mechanics, even upselling, the how much they charge extra in labor to do the jobs. How there's even like a secret screen that we call customer view and repair shop view. I'll talk about that. There's a lot of other things about repair shops I want to talk to you about. Extra fees they will charge you. So I'm going to end it here, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you.